What up, guys? Total Control 871. Can you guys see me okay? Do I need the studio light? How's that? Better? Okay. I came across an interesting video, and it's going to be an economic video today in regards to living, cost of living, how the cost of living is artificially inflated, how people are hypno-mind fucked and led to believe that you have to pay thousands of dollars per month, otherwise the place of realty, okay, the apartment complex won't be profitable, and oh my god, we would why we would have to shut down. You want us to work for free? Oi, Gavalt. No, we don't want you to work for free. But I do think it is time that we take a closer look, a closer examination as to the actual cost of living. I want to show you some snippets of a video that I came across. This is a guy, what's his name, 007 Craft, I think is the name of the YouTube channel. I will link the entire thing down below. He claims to have lived out of a storage unit, and from the looks of it, he was there for quite some time. Let's just have a look-see. I'll get our video.
If you're going to live in a storage unit, you're going to need to be as invisible as you possibly can be. You basically need to be a ghost. If anybody finds out you're here, that's when you start running into trouble. So, first of all, I needed power for my unit. So what I did is I ran an extension cord along the power cable up here, and I sort of zip tied it up. So you can't really tell it's power is going to my unit unless you are looking closely. So this is my unit here, and at the top of the unit you can see I have an antenna, and that's so I can get a cell signal inside the unit itself.
Okay, you guys see that? So he's got an extension cord going into his unit and something protruding out of his unit. That is not being ghost. People down in the comment sections have speculated that he was actually an employee of the storage facility. If you guys can see there, that is U-Haul. If the phone will focus, it's U-Haul storage unit 3163. Yeah. Before you guys think I'm blowing whistles, I mean, obviously I'm not blowing a whistle. He's put this up on YouTube, over 5 million views, which definitely gives you a good sense, a good gaugement of just how interested people are in living for less. Either because they just can't afford it, or just simply they're tired of surrendering. It could be 50%, 70%, or 90% of their pay over to a greedy slumlord. I'm sorry, but what he's calling ghost, that is not ghost. I'm not going to get too deep into details. I've never attempted this, but I can tell you that that scenario would not work. People, they do see things. You're talking about an employee, presumably. If he isn't an employee there, they walk these halls, they see it, they're going to see something different. That's not being ghost. Let's look a little bit more.
Because once you close the door, it drops all signal. I have a lock, which I've magnetized onto the door, so it looks like it's locked.
Foolish, foolhardy. Okay, so you magnetically adhered a lock to your door. However, those holes are open. Anybody can come along and affix a lock to your unit. It could even be, even if you're not delinquent, staff could come along and apply a lock, and they're thinking they're doing you a favor. Oh my goodness, we found your unit unlocked. We're going to lock it for you. We don't want theft. So, you would have to take an angle grinder to that steel hinge, to the locking, to the bracket. You'd have to take an angle grinder and cut, so that it doesn't actually lock through, like an earring, it doesn't. So this is more stuff that doesn't work. Let's look some more.
And when it's not. And then when I actually do want to lock it, I can just use this lock or use another one down here and leave that one there. Alright, so let's take a look at the unit now. So in here I've got my TV, entertainment center set up there. I've got my bed. I've got my kitchen area over there, complete with a fridge, and my couch over here.
Okay, I'm going to zip ahead because, like I say, you guys can check out the whole thing in the link below. Basically, he shows you from there on that this guy has basically a micro apartment put into this storage unit, all run off of his not so well concealed, electrical cord. Some have speculated that he's an employee of of U-Haul. I don't know if I would go for that, but probably what's more plausible is that he's paying off an employee to stay there. That comes with its own issues. Much like a drug pyramid, it doesn't even have to be as high as a cartel. Like I was watching Breaking Bad, I tried getting into it, I never really could. They never ever addressed the things that would collapse your drug empire. All it takes is for one of your dealers to get popped and they immediately start squealing. Same thing is going to be true here with attempting to live in a storage facility. If there's an employee that is compromised enough to take money from you, later in the video we see that the guy, although he does have a bar, I don't know if you're trying to save money. I don't know if I'd be spending money on alcohol, but we'll put a pin in that. He doesn't appear to be a drug addict. I have no idea if he's a drug addict. He might be. Might be an alcoholic too, or then again, he might not be. You really don't know. But it does beg the question as to why he is showing this. Later in the video, he does go on to indicate that he moved out. So I think he either got busted, although from his setup, he was there for a minute. He was there for a minute. He had the whole kitchen and whatnot. One thing he did not have was a toilet. Yeah, it's true. Storage facilities do have bathrooms on the facility, although some of these bathrooms might be locked during non-business hours. So what are you going to do then? You can do your best to train, your body to only, take a shit at certain times, but that training is only going to work but for so long. Sooner or later, nature is going to rail against the training. Yeah, take it from me, I know. This is not a workable scam this guy has going here. What does he do? When you pay somebody off, how do I say this? It all sounds good on paper, but eventually it begins to collapse. Eventually, something goes wrong with somebody, either the person paying or the person receiving the pay. Now, like I said, I've never been party to any of this sort of scam, but I've observed it, from a third party point of view. The person renting, living there, will eventually, because of vices, there's so much I want to say. I want to say that their vices caused them to be in the situation to have to live in a storage facility. But I don't have these vices. So there's a lot that I'd like to say about a lot of different demographics of people that would find themselves in that situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. So I'm doing my best to be as fair to these people. The point that I'm trying to say, though, is the causality of the collapse of the scam. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So what I'm about to say, I'm not saying it about everybody that would live in such a way. I'm just simply talking about what would cause the arrangement to collapse. It usually does center around vices or greed. The person renting, staying there, stealth, they will start to come up short on their extra rent. You know, they'll pay their storage locker unit, but they will start to come up short for their, you know, the person they're paying off, and then they start to get upset. And then, don't ask me what would make a person come to this conclusion. I mean, if you're on that, not even the companies, so it's not even saying that U-Haul is giving you something extra. It's not U-Haul. It's that one particular employee who is compromised and willing to do something like this for you. So you're now on you're at their mercy. They might start to ask for more money, you know, and you become resentful of it. And so the resentment, either failure to pay or them wanting more money, that could cause the arrangement to collapse. Trying to bring your buddies and friends in. Oh my God, I know people with devices, they all got friends and buddies. Oh, I can get you into this storage facility, you know, the guys on the QT. You just got to be this, that, and the other. And let's just say you have been abiding by the unwritten rules, but the people that you took sympathy on to bring them into their own unit, they start fucking up. There's always something that's going to cause the shit to collapse. Okay, I'm gonna end there talking about shit that brings it to collapse, because I definitely want to talk about oh yeah, and the bathroom thing. I'll say this about as far as how unworkable it is. For you to actually stay in a storage unit truly stealth without putting somebody on the payroll with, you know, payroll, to be truly stealth, it's incredibly difficult. Very, very difficult. Dare I say, your movements would be so restrictive, it would either be as bad as a homeless shelter or quite possibly worse. You know, number one, getting into the facility, you have to put in your punch code. And this is something, like I said, I'll link it down below. You can watch this whole, it's an 8-minute thing. He doesn't talk about any of these things. Any of the things that can get you busted, he doesn't talk about any of it. Punch codes getting into the facility, they have to be even. If you think that it's not that big of a deal, one time I went to my mailbox after business hours. Well, the business hours close at 6, but you can use your punch code to get in to the facility up until it's either 10 or 11 or some shit like that. I was there a little too late, and I punch in and the gate doesn't open, so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I must have been here too late. Guess who gave me a phone call like the next day or a day after or whatever it was? You know, it's like the site manager, and that was just me trying to get my mail. You getting into a unit, okay, it's not as easy as you think. So you got your punch codes that even if you are during business hours, they have to be even and within a reasonable amount of time. If you're punching in at 8 o'clock at night to go to your storage unit, and then the next time you punch because you got to punch out and whatnot, to leave is at, I don't know, 11 o'clock in the morning the next morning, then obviously, you know, those punch codes have timestamps. They don't even got to look through the entire video footage. And they'll be able to see that you came onto the facility. And it's true, not every hallway has a camera, but that doesn't have to have a camera in every hallway. They'll just see you coming onto the facility and not leaving for about, 12 hours later, 24 hours later. And again, if you were to exit your unit in the middle of the night to answer the call of nature, you're talking about motion detectors. You're talking about light sensors that you move into a hallway, the lights come on, cameras. So even if your particular unit isn't under direct surveillance of a camera, you're going to have to move through one of the hallways that does have surveillance. So they're going to be able to see you. Also, not all storage facilities have this, but many storage facilities have magnetic door sensors, roll door sensors, or hinge door, whatever your deal is. Meaning, after you punch in, unlock your unit, and open the door, it sends a signal to the management office. Because just like an alarm. Like the magnetic sensors on windows for burglar alarms, that's there. It won't set off like an alarm if you put in your punch code, but it does let them know, oh, such and such is there, and they're in their unit at such and such time. But if these door sensors are triggered at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, then guess what? Also in our video, we see that dude has a ceiling. I don't know how old the facility is. I've never been inside of a U-Haul's storage facility, but the storage facilities that I've been in usually don't have ceilings. There might be like a mesh, gate. How do I want to say this? Even in back, we're talking about the climate control, because he was in a climate controlled unit. Even in the climate, there are catwalks in back of the units. Okay, so somebody can access the catwalk, and as they walk down the catwalk, they can just peer into that unit and peer into that unit, and they can see inside of it. So all that shit that he had set up in there, they would definitely see it. They don't have ceilings. Like I said, I don't know if that's something that's unique to U-Haul. I don't know. But still, even if there was a ceiling there are so many other things that would snag you up trying to live in a storage facility. You really would have to restrict your movements like crazy. You might even have to camp out near the gate and wait for somebody else to come in. That's a fucking pain in the ass. Blistering heat or deadly cold. You're waiting, could be hours before somebody comes in. And also to leave, it could be hours. If you have an appointment that you have to go to, it's so very non-workable. There are people who do it, but these are people who are willing to basically seal themselves off in that unit for a couple of days at a time. Like I said, it's extremely restrictive. The movements are restrictive, a lot more harsh than the homeless shelter. What time have I got here? All right, 18. Yes. However, we're done talking about the do's and the don'ts and how it all doesn't work. Nevertheless, okay. Now, whether he was there on an employee's knowledge or not knowledge or whatever, we saw that U-Haul did not collapse. And he was able to live there for quite some time. And that was uploaded last year, 2017 sometime. That was about a 10 by 15 or 10 by 10 unit. I'll estimate a climate control unit like that for U-Haul probably cost something like, I'll say $150. One of the reasons, in case you didn't know, I used to have a 10 by 15 climate control for my collectibles. And the rent, I think I got that rent at something like an initial special promo. It It was like 90 some dollars, like just under $100. Had the unit, couple of years. It was creeping up to like 150. It was creeping up there, you know. I came to the realization that the rent on this unit, it's only going to keep going higher and higher. Room rentals that I was using at the time, this is 0809, like I said, they have become explosively predatory. They're now in the $600 and $700 range. I'm not going to be able to keep this massive collection any longer. It'll just be a matter of time before I won't be able to pay, and it'll all go to auction. So before that happens, it killed me to do it, but I liquidated it and I sold it, and that's how I got the money for the first Black Rider. Anyway, we see that it is possible to live. We see that living in a storage unit will not cause the economic collapse of U-Haul or any storage unit. It begs the question, why is it so difficult? You know, oh boy, here we go. I'm going to talk about it. You know, our Jewish oligarchy, in that animated movie, American Pop, Zombies, Zombies, am I saying it right? He lost his mother to a tenement fire in New York. Very, very true to life. Turn of the century, there were a great deal of tenement fires. Turn of the century, we didn't have license and inspection. We didn't have code enforcement. There were a lot of things that we did not have. You guys know that I don't broker in conspiracies and shit like that. I am aware of the term Jewish lightning. I'm not going to say that it was a bunch of Jewish lightning that caused these tenement fires. You know, because I don't broker in conspiracies, I won't necessarily talk about deliberate minds behind it all. I'll just simply talk about what happened and the end result of those actions. We had our tenement fires. A lot of people died. People started to come to the realization we got to have regulations. With these regulations, that right around the L&I, license and inspection, code enforcement, that's when suddenly becoming living alternative forms of domiciles became highly regulated, and they went on the extinction list. All under the guise that it's being done for your safety. And although true, a lot of Jewish-owned properties burned to the ground, but was it like a brush fire? Was it like a wildfire? Burn down this part now, and you'll have so much more later when it goes to regrow. Now we suddenly see that these powerful real estate oligarchies, they now have the power and the wherewithal to charge fantastic amounts of money, because after all, you have to live in a regulated fashion for your own good. You know, we don't want terrible things to happen to you, so just give us everything. You know, terrible things to happen to you. You're talking about living an impoverished life, and it would be right around that time that you had your First World Wars that rolled out, so a lot of things distracted a lot of people from the tyranny, the oppression, the oligarchy. Ultimately, we gave rise to a middle class. Only certain types of people with the middle class, the hypno mind fucks came. If you don't have this middle class life, it's obviously because you've done something wrong. You've not done something right. And it has nothing at all to do with the system and the status quo. You're to blame. And that isn't true. Like I say, I deal in my own life experiences. I did everything right. I lived a good, clean life, and still, I ended up incarcerated, psychologically traumatized. I'm in this tent in the woods, you know, and even this, the oligarchies and the powers that be and law enforcement would say, this is wrong. You can't live like this. And nobody is here to provide a living wage. Check my time. Okay. Who stood to benefit from all the regulation? You know, the tenement fires killed a lot of people, but it also ended up causing rents to explode. It was basically the original Silicon Valley real estate explosion. Put it like that. And here we are going through the next real estate explosion. And the cost of living has just become demonstratively high. Let's see, let's get our guy up and running here again.
So if you're going to live in a storage unit, you're going to need to be as invisible as you possibly can be.
Let's see, we'll jump ahead. Come on.
You basically... so over here above the bed, I've built a bar, and this is just to hold all my liquor and drinks and everything.
That's your liquor?
I've also got stuff...
You like to get liquored up, huh?
Behind the bed. So what I've done is I've built this little...
Yeah, he likes to get liquored up.
This is my left surround speaker.
Oh,
so the thing
he's
about
got
the
surround
is,
speakers.
To hear properly, they should be positioned over here, in the center, and then to the right. But since this is the doorway, I sort of...
Why do you have surround speakers in a storage unit? That makes no sense. Like I said, obviously you're not living stealth. So much for your ghost.
This on, fountain goes, and it shoots water into this funnel, which goes through that.
That's how he gets his water.
Holes in, and out this tube here.
He says it takes about 10 minutes to fill up his jug.
So right now this is the water tank from my car, and it's just about filled.
10 minutes filling that thing up?
And this is me refilling the main water tank from my storage unit. And I have the sink there, always work. Alright, so this is my new apartment.
Woo! Somebody's got a nice bicycle. Not as nice as you, baby. But somebody's got a nice bicycle. So here he is in his new apartment. Yeah, so like I say, yeah, he goes on. It's a small little apartment, you know.
Just starting to move all my stuff in now. It's pretty bare bones at the moment.
Little tiny fridge and
kitchen, living room, bedroom over here, bathroom here.
Not even an efficiency. I'd fucking love it. So yeah, like I say, there was no way in the world that he was there under stealth conditions. For you to stay in a storage unit under truly stealth conditions, you would have to be willing to live in a very, very fucked up way. That's why not a lot of people do it. Believe it or not, people who are willing to accept that, it tends to be some of your more cliche-looking homeless people. It's just very difficult to do it. I've even heard stories where people will trust other people to lock them in and then come and get them out in the, during the next business day. And like I say, if you don't plan things right, if you don't map it out right, it gets really bad. The food, the eating, you end up, if you don't have a portable toilet in there with you, it can get really nasty really quick. All right, guys. Hopefully I have shed some light on you. It doesn't have to be that expensive to live. It really doesn't. If indeed these storage facilities can be profitable off of charging $100, $150, or maybe even $200 for 10 by 15, 10 by 10, 10 by 20, more than enough space. License and inspection is the excuse that is used to bar homeless people or just anybody really looking to live free, to liberate themselves from the demonstrative albatross of rent. And again, let's just say you do your backtrack. You go back, license and inspection, who's in charge of them? I'm trying not to get too conspiracy here, too Illuminati. I don't like to broker in a lot of conspiracy theories. Follow the money. Follow the money. Who stands to benefit keeping living in a storage unit illegal? Who stands to benefit from that? Okay. All right, guys, that's it. 31 minutes. That's it. Cutting it off. Stay woke. Question your reality. Total Control 871.